Welcome to Tangermass Studio D. I'm Kevin Duff. Today we're looking at a prototype of Rallyman GT from Holy Grail Games. Rallyman GT is a 1 to 6 player racing game that plays in about an hour. Is being published from Holy Grail Games. It'll be on Kickstarter this November. It re-implements the 2009 game Rallyman. You're trying to race around the track and come across the finish line first. It uses dice rolling and push your luck mechanics. Let's look at the prototype components. There's tiles that make up the game board. There's player dashboards, player cards, dice, tokens, and more. To set up, you'll place out the tiles to arrange the racetrack. The rules have a design, or you can make up your own. Place out the cars on the track. Positions are picked randomly and place their speed marker of 0 next to each car. On your turn, you'll be rolling the dice one at a time. You can roll them out all at once, but we'll talk about that later. The black dice help you accelerate or decelerate. The white dice allow you to coast at the same speed, and the orange dice help you brake. I recommend placing the dice out on the track that you want to use. In order to move from the start, you have to roll a 1, then you could decide to go to speed 2, then maybe coast twice. We only had 1 white die in our prototype, but there should be 2 in the game, so we substituted a d6. And then go to speed 3, then speed 4, which will land you right before the turn, hopefully. You'll roll the dice one by one. If you ever roll 3 warning icons, then your car immediately loses control. And you can only use each die once per turn. If you do lose control, you would look at your dashboard to see what happens to your car. The higher the speed, the more damage tokens you have to pull from the bag, and the single 0, you have to turn your car backwards and then start in gear 1 next turn. Double zeros, you spin off the road and lose your next turn. There are different damage tokens like using less dice, grabbing some flags. The green ones, of course, nothing happens, but the yellow flags, other players can't overtake you this round. Overtaking's when you're trying to catch another player. You have to be at that person's same speed or a higher speed in order to be next to them and then pass them. Now you could risk it all and roll all your dice that you want to use at once. This is called going flat out. If you do roll them all and succeed without losing control, then you gain a focus token for each black and white dice you rolled. The focus tokens can be used to automatically pass a roll, but you have to decide to use it before you use that die, and you can't use focus on flat out rolling. Order of turns is important. The player going the fastest will go first, and if players are tied for the same speed, then the person in front goes first. Many of the spaces on the board have numbers on them. Your car must be at that number or below it in order to make it through that space. If it's higher, then your car automatically loses control. Many times you'll need to use the brake dice to help you downshift faster. They let you skip a gear level. So if you're in gear 4 and need to get to gear 2, but have already used gear 3, then you can use an orange die to get to the second gear. Some spaces even have warning icons. You'll automatically receive a warning on that turn if you pass through it or if you're at a certain speed passing through it. But you can go from space to space diagonally. This will help you avoid key hurdles in the game. You can also repair your car by taking a pit stop, but that usually makes you skip a turn, but it might be worth it if you have a lot of damage. After 1, 2, or 3 laps, depending on the track or depending on what your group wants to do, the person who crosses the finish line first wins the game. Now this game is about trying to use your dice effectively. Should I just roll 1 at a time? Because if I could stop if I start rolling too many warning icons. But should I push my luck and roll them all at once, hopefully getting myself a lot of focus? But there's a chance I could roll all 3 warning icons, which then I lose control and probably lose my turn next turn. So those focus icons are really important because later in the game they could help me pass some rolls, which could get me really far on the track. Depending on what type of terrain I lose control on impacts the amount of damage, and I'll probably lose my turn. And if you draw a weather icon, the other side of the board is even worse. And some of the corners have 2 spaces, or the inner corner has 1 space, so you can take your car around and you can use the diagonals to get around those corners faster. Let's talk about diagonals a little bit more. As you move from space to space, you can move your car forward on the diagonal instead of just moving directly forward, and you can never move side to side, which can really help you avoid certain spots on the board, like this one. It's easy to see where everyone's speed is at because of these speed markers by their cars, and you can tell whose turn it is because there is a light side and a dark side to these markers that you switch over when your turn's over. Now this is just a prototype, but the racetrack is well illustrated, and it's great that you can rearrange the tiles for different track designs. The car minis have different shapes too, which is pretty cool. You're trying to get ahead of your competition. Maybe you do that through the tight turns. Maybe you do that by getting a higher speed. Being first is super important. I remember one game I was blowing everyone out of the water. It was near the end of the game, but Melissa was able to go first, and she passed me and crossed the finish line before me. So if you like racing type games, then check out Rallyman GT from Holy Grail Games coming to Kickstarter this November.